very, very pleased and privileged to have the fantastic Tim Ellison with us. Tim, how are you tonight?
I am well, Vinny. Thank you. Thank you guys for inviting me. It's certainly my pleasure to get to do this with some old pals.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun tonight talking memories about what it was like then and what it's like now to be a vinyl collector. And who better to have on than Tim? Personally, I've known Tim since the 7th grade, since I literally moved to the 6th California. And for most of that time, I got to say, a lot of our conversations were around vinyl, weren't they, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we grew up in Poway. So, I was thinking back to actually earlier today about like, where did we buy records back in those days? And one of the first things for me was where it was a little bit of a different kind of shop. If you guys remember Gary's in Escondido.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you guys, I had an older brother, so we would, I think maybe my older brother would want to go there on trips to Escondido. But that was the first thing of like, oh, somebody's selling used records, and old stuff that's out of print. So I remember that from like being in elementary school.
Yeah, he was there a long time, Gary. Yeah, he was. If I recall, the store was pretty close to the older areas where you had the thrift shops and the consignment stores and so forth. Not a stone's throw from where City Hall is now. And yeah, it was a terrific store. And my memory is actually good old east of Suez, which in Poway, EOS. They didn't have a lot of vinyl, but what they did have, you couldn't get anywhere else, at least in our neighborhood. I remember getting a lot of my early punk records there. They had an outstanding selection.
And they had the big catalog, the big yellow page catalog, and you could special order stuff. So
yeah, I took drum lessons there actually from John Mullen. If you guys remember John, he played in Uncle Joe's Big Old Driver. Yeah. And just a great guy. Like, he would bring his guitar in and like jam with me. Like, he was the first drum teacher I had, and it was like, this guy was a rock and roller, man. Like, he was so great. But yes, they also taught bass. That's where Rob took bass. Yeah. And then, and you guys, back to Gary's real quickly. I remember taking the bus with Rob and the original Outrage, Rob and Robbie, to go up to Gary's because they had they had imports. That was one thing that unless you were going to go out to one of the bigger stores, you couldn't find that close. So yeah, that's awesome. Great memory, Tim.
John played in my brother's band in Poway.
No way.
Wow, yeah. I didn't know that.
The Rockin' Dogs.
The Rockin' Dogs.
Yes.
Dave?
Yeah. My brother's 3 years older than me, and they had a band when they were in high school and probably a little after that were they were really into like the New York Dolls. That kind of sound. There's a website called Che Underground. Have you guys ever seen it?
Yes.
Vinny, you've seen it? Matthew Rothenberg kind of curated it, and they've got a lot of audio put up of like Hair Theater and The Answers, and there's Rockin' Dogs demos on there.
Oh,
really? That I didn't know. Wow.
Tim, you'll have to share that with us just so we can put it on our page too.
Yeah.
So people can access that. Yeah, folks, we do have a Sunday Spin page. But yeah, Tim, that's great. Wow. Yeah, John Mullen taught me a lot about music. I really owe a lot to that guy. That's cool. That's interesting. It's cool. Vinny, it's something we always talk about, how everything is all linked up. That's a story that we didn't even know. That my drum teacher was in a band with Tim's brother. It's just the world gets smaller and smaller with all this rock and roll stories, guys.
Well, and there's also nothing like familiarity, because the three of us basically we have the same paths. 1, 2, 3. Different variances with 3 different people, but our stories really from then to now are very, very similar in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so great to have somebody that so well, like Tim, who has a wonderful story to tell. Tim's been playing in bands in the San Diego, successful bands, since the very early 80s, starting in his early teens, you know, and I knew him then, I know him now. Thing I can say about him, he's never changed. And I don't ever expect he will. It's the kind of guy we have as a friend.
Well, right? Yeah, we got the Nephews Shrine, just so you know what that is. That's one of Tim's bands. Tim, how long's the Nephews been a band?
Yeah, well, it depends on, you know, the Nephews was originally Mark Stevens and me, right? Yep. He was my buddy. We both kind of got into music together, going back to like when we were children, you know, like Absolutely. 11 years old. And I think by the time we were in middle school, we like had the idea we're going to have a band, you know, like there was no doubt about it. You know, it was by 6th grade, you know, it was going to happen. I think we had the name the Nephews probably by the time we were in 7th grade or so. So it goes back that far. I mean,
those were the Meadowbrook days. And, you know, Poway High, Tim, seriously, Poway High gets a lot of credit for being the rock and roll school, and it is. You know, we have basically the West 64 spin where Greno is going to have the East spin, which includes guys like Rob, you know, Fez Recker. Of course, Twin Peaks Meadowbrook is what I'm talking about. And we were each doing our own thing in you know, slightly different avenues. So when we all did get to Poway High, it was like a meeting of the minds, really. It was just amazing because you were talking to guys and going, damn, you know, where have you been the last 3 years? Different school. Tim, can you elaborate a little bit? When you got to Poway, was it like that for you?
I think, you know, we just kind of happened into this serendipitous circumstance of like, our milieu, our circle of people, like there were a lot of really great people, you know, and people that were open-minded, people that were, I don't know, like interested in life, interested in alternative things. It was a large circle. And, you know, Glenn, then for Outrage, it was like, it was cool because it was like the circle was expanding. You guys were a couple years behind us, but
yeah,
I think we were all kind of together in a way.
You guys were the first band I ever heard about. I remember I walked outside. I was must have been in 10th grade or maybe 9th grade. I walked outside and I hear this band playing, and I'm like, and I had already heard the name the Nephews, and you know, it's Poway. It's like if you play music, even just pick up a guitar, you're immediately flooded with, hey, do you know Fiction Rose? Do you know Our Delinquents, or what? You know what I mean? Vinny, what was your first band again? The Tapioca Convention.
Tapioca Convention.
See, baby,
yeah.
I know it. But anyways,
another branch
so
off, right?
I walk out and there's the Nephews playing a cover of Arnold Layne.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like not only is this band cool, but they're playing a song that no one out here except for maybe a handful of people even know what that is. And if they told people it was Pink Floyd, they'd say, Tim, you're lying. And Charlie had the big frame, like the leather, like, oh man, it blew my mind. I mean, that was my introduction to you guys.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. I know that was our junior year, so I remember that day.
Yeah, so I was a freshman then. Yeah, it was wow. I mean, blew my mind, you know, and then getting to know, and I know that Charlie had just he had just joined then, right? Wasn't that one of his first shows with you guys?
So I recall, Scott would have been in the band at that time, but then Charlie, when I was a senior, and Charlie is still in the band.
I know, it's amazing. Hey, gotta give shout out and love to C-Note Bro now too, man. Great guy. Love you, Charlie. Yeah, he's awesome.
No doubt. in a way, Charlie and I kept the band going, you know, through the late 80s, 90s. So when it came up again, the idea of playing live, and it was going to be me and Charlie, you know, we thought, well, it's the Nephews.
Absolutely.
So we're back doing it again.
So Tim, go ahead, Vinny. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say while he does that, because it is important, one of the things I was going to say is, you know, you talk about the inner circle growing throughout our formative years when we were all influenced by each other. It's all true, and it all holds true to this day. But I think the real beauty of it, just in my opinion, then and now, looking back on it fondly, was we were a minority. The people who didn't understand. And there was quite a few of those too, Tim. I mean, it's not like we were listening to songs, learning tunes that you heard on the radio on 91X in a lot of cases. We were pulling stuff from 20, 30 years previous, teenagers. And let's face it, our friends didn't get it.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, not everyone was like as entranced with music and music history as we were, you know, and we were kids that were reading books, you know, reading magazines, interviews with like cool contemporary people who were talking about what music they loved, you know, and so we were just learning, you know, about all kinds of stuff. And like you say, Vinny, not music you would hear on KGB FM.
That's great. I love it. And you guys, uniquely enough, the Outrage Nephews connection goes far beyond playing shows together, which we did, and all that. We actually had Outrage had broken up, but two of our members, right? Let's see.
Yes.
There's some beautiful boys. So there's Timmy right there. There's the wonderful Chris Marsteller. Shout out to him as well. Chrissy, we love you. He's a guitar player in the Loons now for, 20 years. There's the one and only Fez Wrecker, Amigo Records, Mermaid Records, this guy's done it all, living over in Berlin, still crushing everything he does in life. And then the aforementioned C-Note Brunel. And this is Bradley, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Tim, talk a little bit about this gem right here.
Yeah, that
10-inch, by the way, guys. So eat your heart out.
Beautiful.
That 5-piece lineup was the last lineup of the group with Chris. We had played as a trio for a long time. Brad was a friend of Charlie's from UCSD and just kind of started playing saxophone with us, and we just kept working him into our songs. And then we had a second guitarist for a while, Tony Roeder. When he was no longer playing with us, we had really arranged the songs for 2 guitars, and Chris stepped in. And Chris, I don't know how long he was in the Nephews, but maybe around a year. And that was really the last period. And we did a lot of cool stuff during that time. We played once in that lineup at the Troubadour.
Wow.
Opening for Rocket from the Crypt at the Troubadour.
Nice.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah.
And Tim, didn't you guys you toured with them as well, right? At one leg of like a Midwest tour, I recall Rob telling me about that.
Yes, indeed. That was 1995. We opened part of a Rocket from the Crypt tour. It was funny because they asked us, would you do this string of shows? So the shows were kind of all going out, heading east and then up into the Midwest. And then we actually went up into Canada. We played in Toronto. And then that was it for the Nephews part of the tour. So we had to drive home from Toronto.
But that's rock and roll dedication. Vinny, that's rock and roll dedication, right?
That is
yeah.
absolutely rock and roll dedication, yeah. One thing I want to mention, you know, as I see as a career highlight standing from the outside is, and I would love to hear a little bit about this, is you got the opportunity to play with the Bonnewell Music Machine for a while. And that had to be a dream come true for you, Tim, as for Rob as well.
Yeah.
You know, these are the same people, the same influences that we started with, playing their songs in garages, and we all did it. What was it like, Tim? I gotta know.
Yeah, you know, that's one of those things that just kind of lands in your lap in life. And, you know, it's for me, I think over the whole course of my life, like that's one of the most profound things that's ever happened to me, honestly.
Sure.
And, you know, Rob had met Sean Bonnewell, I think, here in San Diego. Rob was the one who really got it going. Rob and Lana, who played organ when we did the Music Machine. For anybody who doesn't know, Music Machine was a 60s LA group. In fact, I've got the LP here.
I got the book and Tim's got the album, baby. Yeah, check out his book. It's amazing. Oh, yes. Beautiful.
So,
classic.
yeah, we kind of set about, Rob set up a tour with Sean. And we set out, I think, that summer, fall, learning the set list that we'd put together, which was like 20 songs. You know, trying to dissect these old recordings, you know, to hear the different guitar parts, and we put a lot of work into it. So we were ready to go, you know, by the time we flew over. And I flew out of LAX with Sean Bonnewell. I met him at the airport.
Wow.
Just saw him walking up with his guitar case, and I was like, there he is, you know. So we became buddies flying from LA to Berlin. And we did about a week of rehearsals with the full band. They were all ready to go, just kind of putting loose ends together. I think we did about maybe 7 or 8 shows. Played at a garage rock festival in Spain, and
there's some great footage on YouTube, actually.
Yes. Thanks for mentioning that, Vinny. Yes.
Yeah.
Say again, Vinny. I'm sorry.
Oh, there's some great footage of you guys on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible.
There is, and Jay actually filmed that. J-Mo filmed the Berlin show.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
Jay Cumby was came
Jay.
with us on that tour, so hung out and helped us out doing sound, and
Another Poway guy.
Another.
Tim, I have a question too.
Right. We used to always say it's something in the water fountains, right, guys?
Yeah.
Tim, I had a question too. Wasn't there an incarnation of the Music Machine with like Rob and Chris and Aaron too? Or was that the same one with you? I'm kidding.
No,
I just remember that they did some shows. I know you and Rob were in that, but weren't Chris and Aaron involved with at some point?
Yes, they were. And if I remember correctly, it was just 1 or 2 shows in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And that was before Rob moved to Europe.
Okay.
So after he moved, I think the idea of the European tour came up.
So
Rob
Glenn,
put that whole thing together, man. We played in some amazing places. We played in the Paradiso in Amsterdam. I mean, yeah.
So Glenn, I see you have a copy of the Heliocentric album. You want to pull that bad boy out? Maybe Tim can say a few words about it, because that really is the Ellison, Recker, Abramson era, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of my favorite discs. Of course, I like the anthology, Speaker in the Trees, but I have personal memories of that time. So anyway, great album, great artwork. What do you remember about it, Tim?
That was the fun period of us playing as a trio, me, Charlie, and Rob. We just wanted to document our repertoire from that time, and Rob put out the record. and we recorded it in El Cajon at Nestor's studio. Yeah, Dave Jass from Uncle Joe's helped with the recording on that. I think he's credited on there.
This is my favorite Nephews picture ever. The one in front of McDonald's is so badass. That picture of Rob is like, that's my hetero life mate, for sure. And well, one of them. And dude, Tim, talk about this iconic person. And talk about how he was left. I know he was left like in Portland or whatever, the Nephews guy.
Yeah, so it was from, there was this compilation album series called Back from the Grave.
Yep.
It was, I think Billy Miller and Miriam Lina, who did Norton Records, did that series, if I'm not mistaken. There was a group called Larry and the Blue Notes. Night of the Sadist was their song. So I don't know. He's that guy kind of became like the symbol of the Nephews. So I had Xeroxed him like out of the band picture, and he's playing. If you can hold it up, Glenn, he's playing a K guitar, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was the Nephews.
Nephews guy.
Icon for a long time. That was on our flyers, and
genius.
And Rob made a huge cutout of him that we used to put on stage when we played. We'd set him up with a microphone and everything.
It's great.
Yeah, Nephew Man is a story unto itself. He's been around as long as the band was, practically. Just from the very beginning, Nephew Man always showed up on the disc one way or the other. You know, he'd be tucked away in a corner.
That's right. We need to revive him, actually. I hadn't thought about that in a while. It should become part of the Nephews branding again.
It's
definitely part of the story. Yeah.
It's iconic, man. And like, I don't know, I just remember Rob telling me, because, you know, I know some of these stories just from Rob's perspective, and I remember him telling me, man, we left it up on stage at somewhere on tour.
I remember the night. It was left outside a club in Portland.
Oh, that's great. That's a video right there.
He might still be there.
Check out the rain.
Yeah.
That's great. So Tim, we know you love records just like we do, and we know you have a pretty astounding collection of some really cool stuff. So did you want to bring a couple things out that you know have been digging on, or
I would love to
slabs for us?
You know what, I got this stack of 45s out for our show today. I started collecting 60s soul 45s probably back about 10 years ago. So that's been a fun thing. I don't know. I always liked 60s soul music, but I never knew a lot about more obscure things. And I actually worked at a record store here, M Theory, for a while.
Sure.
Cool.
And there's this guy who sells collectible stuff out at the Santee swap meet. This guy, Al, he's kind of a fixture at the Santee swap meet. He's a big record guy. He would bring in 60s soul 45s, you know, and I would buy records for the store. And it's like, man, I don't really know very much about this. But that was kind of how I got into it at first. I actually was playing some today. I have 4 honeycomb 45s. I just saw this morning when I woke up, someone I know had posted that Edna Wright from Honeycomb passed away yesterday.
Saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the big hit.
Do you guys know anything about the Hot Wax label?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, they were that's their genre, really, and their era was the very late 60s, early 70s kind of not Motownish, but along those lines kind of groups.
Absolutely, Vinny. And in fact, Holland Dozier and Holland were involved with this label after they left Motown.
Wow.
Yeah, I was playing these. They sound fantastic. Want Ads was their big hit.
Right, and the same
Stick
formula.
Up. You guys remember Stick Up?
Stick Up, right?
I pulled a couple of other things from this pile. This is can you guys see that?
No, kind of hard to read.
7.
There you go. I can feel the ice melting.
The Parliaments.
The Parliaments.
Parliament when they were still the Parliaments.
Wow.
This is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And then I've got these two Stoneflower, Little Sister, Sly Stone's group that he produced on his label. I have both their 45s.
Wow.
This is great. This is from like around probably around when they were doing There's a Riot Going On period, like 70, 71. These are great.
Yeah, and again, you know, it was record labels like Hot Wax that were pulling the Motown formula and applying it with some really brilliant results. And all of a sudden, the biggest change that I remember from that era is you would hear a song, think it was a Motown artist, and a lot of times it wouldn't be, and they wouldn't even be on the label.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Band of Gold was a Hot Wax and Invictus. They were related labels. Yeah.
Hey, Tim, I'm curious. Do you put catalog your stuff at all, like on Discogs or anything?
No. If I buy stuff on Discogs, I'll add it to my collection, but I haven't really done it other than that. Do you guys do that at all?
I do. All my vinyls on there. It's just kind of fun for friends to kind of check out. I've got a friend, Kevin Carroll, out in Kansas that, you know, he's got a big collection and stuff. And you can check out people's want lists. But the reason I brought it up is because a lot of these 45s from that era of the 60s and 70s, especially the soul stuff, I mean, they're garnering these ridiculous price, like 500 thousands of dollars. And I know they're low prints and low, 100 copies in some of them, but it's just kind of different to see. You expect that from the punk rock and stuff, where it's kind of always been a collector's market. But why do you think some of the soul and really obscure stuff is so pricey now? You know, is it just?
I think the collectability of 60s soul 45s goes back to the Northern Soul scene.
Definitely. Great call, Tim.
I mean, as far back as the 70s. I don't know if I don't necessarily look things up if I find these records, like at the swap meet or something for their value. I don't know if I have anything. I do have one valuable record I got at the swap meet I have to share with you guys.
Please.
1 second.
Yes. Tim's treasure chest, folks.
So this was procured at the Santee swap meet about 3 or 4 years ago. The Dovers.
Oh.
This is probably a $300 record, maybe.
Wow.
I mean, it's just
that's the crazy thing. How do you know, right? You have to have
sold for that much on like Pop Psych. That. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy going to the swap meet and looking through. This was like, I could tell that the boxes of records that these people had, maybe they got it out of storage. But it was like a collector, because there were weird things. Like there was a 13th Floor Elevators record in there.
There you go.
Yes. So this wasn't from the original owner, but the Dovers from Santa Barbara, one of my favorite groups, that I know from like Pebbles.
Okay, so it's like late 60s era?
This is probably, I think this is their first 45 from 65.
Oh.
They had a great sound. I'm trying to think. I think they're on Pebbles 2 and 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like Pebbles. I think it's 8. What's the one that starts with "You Must Be a Witch" by the Lollipop Shop?
That's 8, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, we outraged. You guys know we covered "I Never Loved Her," which is just silly, and that was a really. There was a really good Highs in the Mid '60s, Volume 11. I think Texas. Woo, Robin, I love that. Like, there's so many. You mentioned "Back in the Grave" too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's wow. So many great compilations.
We pulled a lot of covers from those Nuggets, Pebbles type things, because you got the cream of the crop, and you would say, wow, you know, I mean, I distinctly remember being in Oklahoma, of all places, Oklahoma, with my band and playing, you know, Public Execution by Mouse and the Traps. And kids who knew the song, which just, that floored me, you know.
Do you remember, Vinny, like how you originally became aware of that song?
Nuggets. I'm positive of it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they were such a godsend, because you said, wow, I never heard this guy before. He sounds like Bob Dylan. You do your homework. It's a guy named Mouse. That's interestingly, you know, and that, again, and Glenn and I talk about this all the time. It was happening in every part of the nation, and every part of the nation was calling it the same thing. They were calling it garage punk, but they were completely different. Detroit had a different sound than Texas, which had a different sound than California, which was completely different to what the cats on the East Coast were doing.
Yeah.
And Nuggets always did a really good job of tying it together and putting a good bow on it.
Incredible job.
Yeah, I don't know if Greg Shaw was. I don't know who the original compilers of those were. I think the early Nuggets probably go back to like the late 70s.
Wasn't it Lester Bangs or someone like that?
I don't think it was Lester Bangs. It'd be interesting to know.
It was someone. I think it was someone like that. Maybe more of on the writing side though of it. I don't know. Anyways, good stuff though. You guys, you're checking out Sunday Spin. We're about halfway through the show with my boy Vinny G, always my right-hand man with the plan. And then we got Tim Ellison, a great old friend that we have so many wonderful times. Like Tim, it's weird, like hearing you talk about stuff reminds me of so many other things and times, experiences we had. I remember a show, Tim, that you and I did. It was you and myself and Rob and Mark. And it was like, it wasn't neither one of the bands, both bands were still together, but we actually played a show together. I don't know.
Was it at 2581?
Yes. And we did like one rehearsal. And I just remember sitting there. I don't know, we must have been at like Tim's apartment or something. And you had a 12-string guitar and you started busting out like songs off Forever Changes. And my jaw just, I never heard anyone be able to play those songs, let alone how was that an influence for you? I mean, you were just able, like, I didn't know anyone that could, not even Rob. Rob could do those songs at that time, and just beautiful music by Arthur Lee. And I mean, just go into that a little bit, the inspiration that Love was for you and is as, you know, a band for you.
You know, Glenn, I remember the night. I remember you guys were over. It was at Mark's, where he was living at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember playing You Set the Scene, and you guys were there. I just remember we were hanging out that night. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I bought Love Revisited at Gary's Record Paradise. the Elektra anthology.
Always full circle, baby.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of thing that he had in stock there. I also bought the Velvet Underground and Nico there.
Oh,
interesting.
Nice.
Tim,
nice.
I remember him. Go ahead, Vinny.
I was going to just go ahead and finish your story, but if you could kind of elaborate a little bit about the influences that you had off of vinyl that pushed you in the direction you went as a musician, I would love to hear about that.
Sure. Boy, oh boy. I think early on, apart from like being a Beatles and Stones fan and all of that, I was really enamored by music from that period that struck me as being like really colorful. Syd Barrett, Pink Floyd, the Incredible String Band, Tyrannosaurus Rex. That and then realizing that there were American groups like Love that were doing really colorful music as well. That boy, that was the stuff that really hit me, back when I was still in high school and teenager. Glenn, I think, by the time maybe that we were seniors in high school, maybe I'd been playing guitar long enough that I could sit down and I could figure out a song from Forever Changes, just take it chord by chord.
Yeah.
Figure out what the arpeggio was on that song,
Well, it sticks out for me, Tim. It's a great memory. And like, again, playing with you guys and stuff. And it's crazy because I remember after that show, I jumped in a car with some friends on an empty stomach, went to the 7-Eleven, got an Old English, which I never drink. And then we all hung out at someone else's house. You were there, and Mark and everybody. Vinny was probably even there. And I just remember I just got really sick. But I do remember up till that point, it was a fantastic, memorable day and a half of hanging out with you guys. And then just all the shows that we played together and stuff are always super fun.
Did you play drums on that show at 2581, Glenn?
I don't know what we did. I kind of think we did some kind of acoustic thing.
Yeah.
And I played bongos, and I don't think.
Wow.
I don't know why we didn't do Outrage. And Tim, another one I want to remind you of is, do you remember when my band Patch came down?
Yes.
With Tumwater? And did we play with you guys at the Boiler Room? Where was that? I can't remember, because I was talking to, Rafter Roberts?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking to Rafter, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, month ago.
Oh, it was Rafter's band.
Yeah, so shout out to Rafter. You're awesome, dude. This guy just put out 12 records last year, an album, and they're fucking all good. Like, he blows my mind. Rafter, you're rad. But anyways, yeah, so it was his band, Tumwater, with Drea Moore, which was actually our friend Eric Shaggy Collins' girlfriend at the time. And then the wonderful, what was their bass player? Ryan, who ended up being like in Physics and a bunch of other San Diego projects later.
Wow.
But so Nephews, that must have been with you, must have been a 4-piece Nephews.
There's 2 places where I'm thinking that might have been. There was a place on Adams Avenue. Is that the one you're thinking of? Boiler Room?
I think so. I didn't live there then. We just drove down, like I was in Patch, and we were just so happy to see you guys and play with you guys. I remember that time, and I was asking Rafter, and he's like, no, it was definitely the Nephews, man. I was like, who? So it was our 3 bands.
I think it was some venue on Adams Avenue. I didn't remember the name of it. We played there once, another time with Drip Tank.
Okay.
And Truman's Water, actually, or Soul Junk.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there was some venue on Adams Avenue. That name you mentioned, Boiler Room, does ring a bell.
Yeah, and again, that just came up through the memory of talking about it. And there was another show I remember with Fern Trio. Do you remember that? I mean, it ended up being like all of us jamming on drums and like, do you remember that show? I think that was
in San Diego.
Oh,
it was here in San Diego.
Yeah. It was like our wannabe, like our PG Crash Worship, with none of the bells or whistles or anything else, but very tribal in our sense. So
I don't remember that night. Where was that one?
Again, it was a Kevin Chanel production.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the exact, but I know it was Nephews, Fern Trio, and I jammed with Fern Trio too. And I think Rafter was there too. It might have been that same tour at a different night. Or I remember too the Velvet Club we played. Remember that little? Because that was the original Casbah, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's where I saw. Because I remember, guys, I moved out of San Diego in '88.
Wow.
Came back in 91, and it's like there's all these bands, there's all these things going on, and it's like, well, we were always doing that.
We were, Glenn, but that was a special time.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Where like things
100%.
were blowing up a little bit.
Oh, dude, 100%. It blew my mind to see the growth come back. And like Chris Nefke, do you remember? We had Shep, and he's like, oh, you got to hear my friends, Rocket from the Crib, Drive Like Jehu, Fishwife. And then we ended up having a practice space with those guys. And then you guys were all, I mean, there was just so much connection between everybody. It's insane. But you're right. It was a very
cool that we, ended up in that circle because it was such a special time, and we could, I don't know, we sort of fit in our own way, like the Nephews had been around for a long time and sort of been part of the, like Poway scene, the mod scene a little bit, more than a little bit. We were a part of that for a number of years, but then to be part of that 90s San Diego scene was cool. We kind of fit in our own way. We could play with the more rock and roll oriented bands like Rocket, or we could play with the more kind of art, indie, alternative groups like 3 Mile Pilot or
I love them.
Truman's Water,
Yeah, Tim,
a lot of fun.
Tim, something that Vinny and I talk often about, whether it's the 70s, 80s, 90s San Diego scenes, none of these bands, I mean, sure, you had like your rip-offs or whatever during a certain little period where, the record companies come in and try and scoop up every band that sounds like Rocket from the Crypt for 1 year or whatever. But talk about how unique, like, again, Truman's Water, Crash Worship, Physics, Uncle Joe's Big Old Driver, Power Dresser. I mean, I could go on and on. The Dragons. I mean, not one of these bands sounds the same. Like,
right.
And the Nephews are a part of all that canon. Like, it's amazing. None of these bands.
It was. I have to say, I look back on that period very fondly. I think for us, it was a very creative time for the group. I was really happy with what we were doing. I felt like we were growing as a group. We were able to contribute, to that whole thing. And another kind of serendipitous thing that happens over the course of your life, I think.
Well, the interesting thing for me too, it to me, I would use the term, it was like it was at its apex, it was at its nadir, if you will, 91, 92. I know for myself, I was playing in bands right up to that point as well. I'm sure you were too, Glenn. But that, for me anyway, and for a lot of people that I knew and associated myself with, that was almost where the cutting line came and the axe fell, so to speak. And all of a sudden, for any of 1,000 personal reasons, I had mine, we weren't going to shows. I wasn't motivated to play places anymore. It got to that point where it couldn't get any better, I guess. And then there was a drop off, at least for me personally. Did that time, 92, 93, Nirvana's just taking off. We're all getting into our mid-20s. We've graduated. We got jobs. What pushed you on? Because I really shut it down personally for a long, long time. What was your motivation to keep going, Tim?
For me, it was there were always inspirations, things that were going on, not necessarily locally, but I was inspired to keep going with the songwriting. I would be like, obscure records from New Zealand or 90s, I don't know, Mick Collins and the Gories and, different things that Royal Trucks was an influence for me.
Me too. Absolutely. Yeah. Eric and I both. Shaggy Collins.
I know Eric, yeah. I wanted to contribute to the development of the music that I felt was going on at that time.
Great answer. That's a great answer. That says a lot about your heart and what you know, the music scene and the people involved with it have meant to you. But, you know, the thing I'm happiest about, really, is to see the people I love, the people I admire, the people that gave me the courage and the balls to do what I'm doing, still out there and still not only enjoying the heck out of themselves, but it's almost to me like it hasn't changed. And if it has, it's only gotten better as far as live music and going to see your friends play. So it's been very exciting for me since I got back. We just got to get these damn clubs open again.
Yeah,
I know. You know, the last place we played before things were shut down is the Black Cat Bar in City Heights, which is like, it's like it's the perfect venue for us. And you know, it's owned by this guy Matt. You know, and everybody's like, you know, we're hoping that everybody's going to come through this with all the lost revenue from, you know, we're at 6 months now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt's another guy who's like goes back to the 90s San Diego scene that's still at it, you know, and providing this beautiful venue for people to play. Tim
Sure.
May, obviously.
And what a day it's going to be. And what do you see once these doors are open? And, you know, good Lord willing, we get through this and we're on to that next level. What do you see as the future for the San Diego live scene in the next couple of years? Because, you know, Glenn and I have talked about what's going on in Colorado, but, you know, we grew up here and you have the insider's view. What do you think it's going to be like for San Diego bands in the next 5 years?
I'm not sure, Vinny. In a way, it's been interesting for us trying to navigate a way back into the local scene because we were out of it for so long. So we're kind of, the connections we have are people that go back to that time, you know.
Sure.
I don't know how I feel about it in general. I wish there was like a venue that was all ages and was able to, I feel like the places that we're playing, there'll be younger people there that just happen to be there, you know, but if there was a way to have like a multi-generational venue, even like, you know, that was all ages that kids could go to. That's something I've thought about for a long time that I would love to see to kind of help create, you know, a local scene that's really good for the artists.
Yeah, because it's all about the young people. You're absolutely right, Tim. And yeah, it tugs at my heart to hear you say that because I've always felt the same way. I'm sure Glenn does too. I mean, he's known for working in music with children forever, donating his time at schools, just like you do, Tim. The next generation and the arts and the culture that we were lucky enough to get in school, that they're not going to get a sniff of. You know, yeah, we all have a personal responsibility to that. And I know that's what keeps me going, you know, on the adjunct of the music. And I'm so glad I have you guys with me, you know, because we really are reaching that time now where the doors are going to get open, I think, in San Diego, and it is going to blow up. And we're going to need people like Tim out there spreading the gospel of music, which is something, you know, we all believe in.
Sunday spin, baby. It's the gospel of rock and roll. That's right. That's awesome. I love it. I was going to ask Tim something, and now I forgot because Vinny was asking such eloquent questions.
I appreciate that. And I want to talk a little bit about what a typical record store day excursion would be like for you back in the day, Tim, because I know I used to sneak out at lunch at PHS and go record shopping on Fridays. It's just what I did before I went to work.
Wow.
Did it every senior year, sure, you know. But for you, what was a typical record store adventure like?
You're talking high school era, Vinny?
Anytime, your favorite era, if you will.
I think, you know, for us growing up in Poway, like the big destinations that were like shops that completely blew everything out of the water in North County would be Off the Record.
Sure.
The original location on by College and
66th in El Cajon or something like that.
that store, I remember going into that store when I was like 12, because we were out with my parents and my brother asked to go in there, and just seeing like, wow, this is a store that's like Gary's times 5.
And it was.
You know?
Yeah.
Seriously. And then Lou's,
Oh,
you know, another
my favorite
store that was on the same level. Maybe even, I don't know, it's hard to compare those two. I think they were comparable in size and in scope. Yeah, I think by the time I had a car, you know, it would be excursions to Off the Record, to Blue Meanie, to Lou's.
Record Heaven was down there too. Everybody forgets
Record Heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the neighborhood, Record Heaven was another one.
Which was really cool. I actually bought a stereo there and some other stuff. I mean, it was the golden road when you were our age and looking for, you know, a drum skin or a T-shirt or a record or all three.
Did you guys go to the shops on Adams Avenue much? Folk Arts and Nickelodeon?
No, and Nickelodeon's still there too, and I would love to make an excursion sometime in the future and see what they're about. But no, I never really went to the Adams area for whatever reason. We frequented the college area.
Folk Arts. I bought, in fact,
yes.
I bought, this is a different copy, but I bought this at Folk Arts when I was probably like 17. Folk Arts at that time was in that house on Adams. Did you ever go in there?
Yes. It's I have been there. Yeah, it looks like a typical Victorian house on the outside, kind of beat up, but yeah, it looks like a place to rest.
Go in to the house and records in the front room, and Lou Curtis would kind of peek his head out, you know, maybe he was like in the kitchen or, you know, very little communication, but then he'd be playing 78s.
Somebody's house. Yeah, truly.
Yeah. And then you would buy a record from him and he'd take out his wallet to make change for you.
Crazy times. Yeah. That's the beauty of it. You know, people go, that's an amazing story. It's truly an amazing story. But for us, it's routine because these were everyday circumstances for us. That's the way the city was then. You know, we were lucky enough to live in it and get to enjoy it for what it was. I'm excited for the future of this city, at least arts and music-wise. And Tim, you're a beacon, and we are so lucky to have you. It's not only as part of the music scene, but we are so lucky to have you as a friend and a mentor. And we love you. And I cannot wait to turn a double play playing ball next summer, man. We got to get back on the field, right?
No doubt, man. We'll be out there.
Second baseman, Greno.
It's awesome.
Can turn the double play with the best of him. He's a good ball player, man. It was a joy playing with you, 19, man. We got to get back out there.
Yeah, we'll be out there. I had lunch. We just hung out for a while with some of the guys the other day. So, you know, I think as soon as we're in the clear, we'll be out there on Sundays.
Well, I'm ready. Greno, you have to get down here and join us in the outfield or something like that, man, one day when you're in town.
Definitely. Absolutely. Love to make the trip.
So, Tim, you got any shout-outs before we wrap it up here because we got about 5 minutes. I want to thank you, friend of 40 years. You never disappoint. I'm so lucky to be able to call you one of the digits on this hand of friendship, man. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, Tim. Thank you for your time today.
My shout out is to you guys, and thank you guys also for everything through the years, for the genuine friendship, and thank you guys for asking me to be a part of it today.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have you back too, Tim, because you got some fascinating stories. You're well versed on the subject. You know, I do want to mention his blog page called What I Heard. You can find that on the internet. Yep, check Tim out. Check out his band Nephews and a Niece. You know, they have a web page as well. I have a Facebook page, right, Tim?
We do. The Nephews and a Niece, we have a Bandcamp page with our 2 singles that we've done since we started playing together again.
It's awesome. Heck yeah.
Well, again, Tim, really thank you for everything.
Sunday Spin, baby. Tim, real quick. So back to like the record, like are those places still around? Like Loose Records, Off the Record?
Oh, man. I'm glad you asked. So Off the Record was bought out from the original owners. The new owner didn't, I don't know, it didn't kind of go anywhere. That eventually went out of business. Lose kind of had this slow period where you would go and it's like, okay, this store is kind of petering out. I don't know what happened there.
Wow.
But the big record thing for me right now in San Diego is the guy that bought Folk Arts. There's this guy, Brendan, who bought it from Lou Curtis, opened up a new location where he organized everything and was buying like crazy. The new Folk Arts on El Cajon Boulevard by the 805 is the best thing to happen to like records in San Diego in a long time. It's a serious store. They opened a satellite store called Jupiter in City Heights, which is like all their more kind of common records, but you go in there and it's like this huge space of records. It's there's probably like maybe hundreds of thousands of records in there. Jupiter on University in City Heights. And then Folk Arts is the store where they have the nicer stuff. I think he's moving.
Yeah.
It might all be moving to City Heights now. Yeah, it was for a time, Glenn, it felt like there was still Record City and there was still M Theory, but San Diego has always been this great record town. But there was a time where it's like, well, those are the 2 stores that are left, you know? The new Folk Arts has taken it to another level.
Awesome. I'm excited to check it out next time I'm in San Diego. The 64. Ladies and gents, you've been digging big, serious grooves here with Tim Ellison on Sunday Spin, with also Mr. Vincenzo Giricello, and I am Breno. We'll be back next week. Who's our host? Who's our guest next week, Mr. Vinny?
I heard a rumor. Another musician / record enthusiast, right?
Don't ever do it without the fez on. It's a Steely Dan reference. Don't ever do it without the fez on.
Yep.
Oh no.
Yep.
So yes, he does record next week, hopefully from Berlin. He's on an 8-hour time change, so show might be on a little bit earlier. Folks, we want you to like us on our Facebook page. Follow us on our Facebook page. It's just called Sunday Spin. Tim, it's been a pleasure. Going through old times and talking about your evolution with music, and I consider you a serious musicologist. So thank you for all your efforts. And Rock Mag, I'm a fan. I remember. I still have issues.
Nice.
I don't mean those kind. But and then it evolved into the blog. So yeah, fantastic work, Tim. Always liked your writing as well as your songwriting. So thank you guys. Vinny, you're a beautiful man. I love the purple. You notice we got a purple vibe today. I got the
purple as well, if you can tell.
Yeah. So David Media spares no expense. They got me a pink bulb for my eyes, right? Absolutely. Mark, thanks for the light bulb.
And plus, Tim's got his baseball cap back there, a couple baseballs. Like he's got his turntable. This is great, man. Like we're all here together. And that's what I just want to say. Everyone stay positive. stay together. We need to be united right now more than anything. And music is the glue that holds us together. So on that note, we love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll be back again next week on Sunday Spin. And let's find some more music before we outro, boys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Tim.
Here's another gem from Tim Ellison. Oh, at the beginning of the show, we did hear Tim's Every Green Knoll, and now we're going to hear another gem. Tim, you probably don't even know that I have this song. Let's see if I can find it. And we'll let everyone go ahead on their weekend. All right, A Part of the Mystery by Tim Ellison. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I know. Exactly. Much love, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Peace.
All right, here we go. Let's do this right, Granny.